eagle owl.
Is a Siberian eagle owl, and a very impressive one at that. Now, with this very incredible bird, you can tell quite a lot about him just based on his name. So where you find him living, so widespread throughout parts of Russia and also throughout parts of Siberia, so really, really cold regions, and what family group he's a part of. So being an eagle owl, that doesn't mean that mum was an eagle and dad was an owl or anything like that. It quite simply means that he shares attributes and the size and hunting prowess of that of some eagle species. Now, when we think of owls, we often think of these adorable creatures that are cute and fluffy. You just want to pick them up and give them a hug, and that's how Cinnamon looks at you lot half the time. So he is a very, very voracious predator when he wants to be within his own right. Now, with this bird, to give you a bit of scope as to what he's capable of catching and predating upon, they've been known to go after lagomorphs, so things like rabbits and hare, but moving up in size, they've been known to catch foxes, badger, and even young muntjac and roe deer fawn have fallen victim to this species of owl, which gives you a real understanding of how powerful this bird actually is. And all of that power, where does it come from? Well, it's all generated within his feet. So if you take a look at him when he takes a landing next to the ball, you'll see just how big those feet actually are. I mean, all we can see from this angle is those under fluffies at the minute, so that wasn't a very graceful angle of this bird. But they have really, really 16 years, and he's a veteran of our display team. And when he knows he's on this perch, he's got one final flight, one line of sight back to his aviary. So Cinnamon, whenever you're ready, you can take yourself off to home. And there he goes. So that was Cinnamon, everybody, our Siberian eagle owl. Hope you all enjoyed that. Comes now, screaming on in. This is Troy, everybody. And Troy is quite an adorable little tawny owl. And I did say this is the largest owl you can find living here in the UK. He's not got the longest wingspan, but he is certainly the heaviest. Today, he's weighing in at a staggering 350 grams. So, bless him, he's about the same as a pack of malted milk biscuits when you look at it like that, isn't he? But don't get me wrong, they might be small, but they sure are mighty. They're doing very, very well living here in the UK, and that is quite nice to say about any bird or bird of prey, because usually, a lot of the time, their population's struggling or in decline. But the key to the tawny owl's success all lies within their diet. Now, this little bird here, he will eat almost everything and anything that moves. Take my word for it, I've also seen Troy try to eat a leaf, so we've got the only vegan tawny owl on planet Earth, but there you go. Now, this little chap here in the wild is humans to aid them catch their prey. And that's why they're doing so well in the UK. It's because of how adaptable the tawny owl has become over the years. Sadly, some other species, for example, like the barn owl, they've kind of been left behind in the past. They're very limited as to what they can go after. But the tawny owl, they're a very, very tactile little species of bird. There he comes, got a bit closer to the centre of those now. He's a very wholesome little character, isn't he? I must admit. He's one of the sweetest looking birds you could ever come across. But sweet is all a matter of perspective. If you were a worm, this is your worst nightmare, believe me. Now, with little Troy, he's quite a character, he's quite a personality. In fact, they're often referred to as the mischief makers of the night. Now, with this little bird, the call you can hear him making to Patrick, who's dad of the day today, he is quite simply saying, once again, a bird that's kind of learning his routine. So what we're going to do now is send another one of my colleagues climbing up a ladder down the bottom of the arena somewhere, and hopefully Troy will spot him and then start to come back over into the direction of his living quarters. So here we go now. He spotted Hugo up in the tree, and he's going to head up this. Ennis, and Ennis is a great grey owl. Now, this is quite possibly the owliest looking owl you could ever wish to come across, isn't it? I mean, I absolutely adore these birds. If you were to ask a small person to draw an owl, I think it would pretty much look something similar to Ennis. Now, great grey owls have evolved to be found in some really cold, harsh, arduous environments. So wherever it's freezing, you're going to find great grey owls. You can find them in areas like the Black Forest of Germany, the Taiga Forest, the Boreal Forest, all the way up into the beautiful redwood forests of Canada. Now, with the great grey owl, this bird is found, yes, in some really cold, harsh environments, but unfortunately, with our changing and warming climates, snow is starting to diminish, and these birds are finding catching their prey slightly more challenging. This particular species relies really heavily on their sense of hearing, so if you look at Ennis, the first thing you see is that big love heart-shaped facial disc. I mean, it looks like he's flown into the Avery door a few too many times, doesn't it? Let's face it. But the reason they've got that really big facial disc, it acts as a satellite dish. So some of you may remember the sky dishes on the side of your houses. They're actually based on that concave shape of an owl's facial disc. So with these birds, they can do something known as auditory or sensory gating, which is when they can focus on one sound and one sound alone. Any gents out there, it's just known as selective deafness, alright? So it's really quite an impressive thing, but with the great grey owl, by fine-tuning this sense of hearing, they can pinpoint exactly where their prey is underneath the snow. In fact, great grey owls can hear a lemming scuttling around, which is a tiny mouse-like rodent under 1.5 feet of snow, not visually see it, but they can catch it based on that sense of hearing alone. So they are seriously super-powered birds. Now, they are also the lankiest and the tallest owl on planet Earth. They're not the biggest, they're not the strongest, but the reason why they're the lankiest, they've got these long legs to puncture through the ice to grab hold of those small rodent-like creatures. Not that we ever would, but if you were to shave a great grey owl, honestly, there's a pigeon-sized creature underneath all of that fluff, so they're not that big at all. In fact, I'd definitely urge you, after the demonstration, to go on Google Images and just type in great grey owl skeleton, and I believe it's on Ornithology Alaska or something like that on Google Images. It's the second picture, and it shows you a great grey owl sat next to a 3D printout of a great grey owl skeleton, and you can see just how tiny they actually are. In fact, this bird today only weighs in at 700 grams himself, so that's twice that of the tawny owl. When you look at the size of him, you'd think he weighs similar to that of the big old eagle owl, wouldn't you? Now, throughout the years, great grey owls have gone by various different names. So the name great grey owl for me, it's a little bit of a boring one because, yeah, he's great, he's grey, and he's an owl, and it's that straightforward, really. However, they've gone by a few different names. But just look at how elusive he actually is, and this does lead in to another one of their names, actually. So he blends in so well to his environment. They're masters of illusion, masters of disguise. So yes, the great grey owl, the bearded owl, the Lapland owl is another name for them. But one of my favourite names for this particular species is the phantom or the spirit of the north. But their scientific name is Strix nebulosa. Nebulosa means cloudy or misty, as they have this ability to appear and disappear into the environment without a trace or a sign. In demonstration, Tom would have highlighted our fundraising project that we're currently working on, and that is all linked in to our Caring for Kestrels project. Now, unfortunately, we're not too sure why, but within recent years, we've actually started seeing a rapid decline in the kestrel population in the south of England. Now, there's a load of different theories as to what that could entail, but one thing that we're looking into is the correlation of these birds and other birds of prey, and we can safely say for a fact that in parts of the south of England there are good populations of kestrels that share territory with buzzards and red kites, so we can rule out other birds of prey for a fact straight away. One theory is kestrels, when it comes to them breeding, they kind of breed, and when they leave their nesting sites, it's almost like a bit of a washing machine effect, if that makes sense. So the youngsters, they will pretty much go east 14 miles. In fact, there was one youngster who was actually rung on the Salisbury Plain, and he ended up in Liverpool. So these birds can travel quite vast distances. So might it be that they're not doing very well in the south of England? Look everybody, a real one. How good's that? So this is quite an actual sight as to how you might see a kestrel thriving out in areas like the Salisbury Plains now. But as I say, they have started to float and leave the nest. So if you go on YouTube, you can just type in Hawk Conservancy plus kestrel, and there'll hopefully be a live feed into one of our new nest boxes out there. She's doing a pretty awesome job, so I think we're going to quit whilst we're ahead, and she's going to get a bit of a taxi ride off with Graham now. That was Scout, everybody.
The barn owl, hunting amongst the trees, searching for food. And he's not alone.
Three of them?
A family of barn owls comes together here, thriving. It's up to all of us to protect the beautiful wildlife we find all around us. Wildlife, just like this.
Well, wasn't that lovely? So we have been joined by two of our beautiful barn owls. So the one who's doing a really good job of flying around everywhere, that is Willow, everybody, or commonly referred to as Will Owl. And Willow is pretty much the gold standard for what you want a barn owl to do. The one currently on Graham's glove is a baby, it's a youngster, and the goal is to hopefully get this little protege up to the standard of Willow. But right now, Graham cannot go 2 feet away from this little bird without her pouncing on him. At least you've got a friend for life, Graham. That's the main thing, isn't it? Let's put it that way. Now, who's seen a wild barn owl? Show of hands once again. Quite a few people, okay. Actually, almost more people put their hands up for seeing a barn owl than they had a kestrel, which does surprise me. But don't get me wrong, these birds do stand out like a sore thumb, don't they? Now, if you are local, you're very lucky, because across the Salisbury Plain area, there is actually 5% of the UK's entire barn owl population. Now, I used to live practically on the Salisbury Plain, and I could just pop out of my driveway and see barn owls on a regular basis. In fact, if you know where to look, there's an estimate of over 500 pairs just on the plain alone. So one day, myself and a colleague called Hugo, we went out looking for these amazing little birds, and we managed to spot 8 within 20 minutes. So they are out there, just in certain pockets of the UK they're doing well. Back where I was born and raised, unfortunately, in Bedfordshire, these birds are pretty much on their way out. And that's because there's such a decline in the water vole population that barn owls just haven't got the food to eat there. Like, how many packs of biscuits is a barn owl? 3 pounds of biscuits? I don't know, it's a lot of biscuits, isn't it? But anyway, barn owls, they can hit a prey item quite hard. And if you're a little mouse-like rodent, that's a hell of a lot of pressure, isn't it? So they're very strong relative